Hello and welcome to episode 419 of the Yellowwallpods. I'm your host Steffen Tigges, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's new record signing, Sébastien Haller, joining from Ajax. It's not official yet, but it's unofficially official because he passes medical today, and more importantly, I think he also signed a contract, at least he did according to Ruhrnachrichten. It's just not announced yet because Ajax, since they're also, I think... At the stock exchange, they want it in the new business year. So exciting times, and for that to discuss and many more things, I'm joined by, as you can see on YouTube, Matthias Zug. Hello, Matthias. How are you doing?
Hello, Stefan. I'm doing okay. It's summertime, and just enjoying life. How are you?
So that means you only had to shovel like 2 inches of snow today, or
No, I only had to mow the lawn like 3 times this week.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying that we missed ourselves, like for whatever circumstance. I think you were sick for a while, then I couldn't do last Thursday, so I had to cancel on you. But now we're here, and we have good news to discuss. I think, I don't know, a year ago, several years ago, I'm certain, but also a year ago when Haller was still far away, I said that my dream replacement for Haller, for Haaland, would be Haller, and now it's actually happening. So I personally am very elated. But before I go on a diatribe, I want to hear your reaction and what you make of Dortmund shelling out about, what was it, 35 million?
31 million.
Yeah.
Plus
I don't know,
bonuses.
Plus 4 bonus. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good chunk of change.
It is.
You're basically reinvesting almost half of what you got for Haaland.
Yeah, well, the Haaland money is already spent in Adeyemi and
yeah. But either way, there's profit there. There's money there for Dortmund to do it. It's interesting because, well, first of all, it's a good signing. Okay, he's a proven goal scorer. He's done it for Ajax. He did it for Frankfurt. A little bit less so for West Ham, but that's fine. It's West Ham. But he's a proven goal scorer. He knows the Bundesliga. He speaks the language. He physically fits the same profile. He's big. He's strong. I'd say he's better in the air than Haaland. And he's not slow. Now, he's not Haaland fast, I don't think, but not very many players are of that size, but he's not slow. He's not a static, big number 9 that can't move. He's good. He's got great balance on and off the ball. A very, very good proven striker. And the interesting thing about it is he's a proven striker of age. He's not... Now, Haaland was a proven striker of 20. That's a little different. But most, if you were looking at a 19 to 21-year-old, which I'm still not ruling out, could also come. You could argue should also come. He's proven. He's a proven commodity. It's low risk. He doesn't have a long history of injuries. He is in his prime. So with all of that, I don't think in the current climate Dortmund have overpaid for him at all. I think they paid fair market value for a proven striker. In an overblown market, you could maybe say they underpaid, but he was coming from Ajax. So, if he was still at West Ham, they probably would have asked for significantly more money.
Yeah. Funnily enough, though, he is the record signing 3 consecutive times now, because he was the record signing for West Ham, then he was the record signing for Ajax, and now he's the record signing for Dortmund.
Correct. But unlike previous record signings, I think this one's going to work. Also because you know what you're getting, you know what you're going to ask of him. He knows what's expected. And like I said, he's been proving it for Ajax. He proved it for Eintracht Frankfurt. It's a great signing. I'm very, very happy. Also that we just replaced an H with an H. makes life a lot easier in that sense. No, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play for Dortmund under Terzic in an aggressive style that I believe will suit him a lot. And so, no, it's a very good signing.
Yeah, my favorite part about this signing is probably the age too, and the history actually that the West Ham transfer did not work out, because that makes him maybe appreciate Dortmund as a club where they both meet on eye level, let's say, and not see it as a stepping stone. That to me is very important, because my main apart from obviously all the goals he's probably going to score, my main joy is really that I think the striker issue will be just over with for at least 3 years. You know, he's reported to sign a 4-year contract. I was really hoping it was going to be 5, but you know, it's, to me, that means we will probably not have a striker discussion, at least a number 1 striker discussion, for 3 years. And it's worth a lot, because we obviously had this with Haaland. Alcázar did not stick around. We had, you know, the whole Aubameyang, Batshuayi, etc. So my hope really, and obviously there are no guarantees in football, so my hope is that this works out just as we all expect, and that he just thrives in Dortmund. And you know, obviously we have to view this deal in the context of Dortmund probably, you know, had the ability to also sign Kalajdzic as an alternative. And I'm a little bit sad that Lars isn't here today. Sadly, couldn't make it because he is more in the Kalajdzic camp, and I really would have loved his opinion on that. But I think overall the profile really does fit, as we say, like Arsch auf Eimer. You know, it's like ass on bucket, I guess would be the translation. I don't know. But yeah, he's a physical dude, and that's great, because Dortmund desperately needs a striker that can, you know, handle the ball with the back to goal. And he's a magnificent finisher. What I really love about Haller's finishing in the box are the micro adjustments, if you will, that he just has a very quick reaction to the situation, and manages to have a very clean finish, because, as I say, he micro adjusts like in the glimpse, in the moment of time. He just has a very good reaction, a very good body control, and yeah, that is something I'm really excited about. And obviously we saw it when he marauded Dortmund with Ajax, is that he just has a very sweet touch, and he has not lost that since he played for Frankfurt, and that's what I always appreciated him. That you can play him the ball in almost any situation, and he will control it. And now with you know, teammates like Adeyemi, Reus, Malen, or Reina, or whoever around him, I'm looking forward to a lot of good combination plays. Obviously, the main argument for Kalajdzic over Haller was that Kalajdzic is maybe even a little bit better in the passing play. But that being said, Haller might not be as good of a finisher as Haaland, and he might also not be as good or as quick as Haaland, as you already pointed out. But I think he has a better touch when being with the back to goal. Like Haaland,
yes,
will get there eventually, because we just know the development trajectory he's on. But Haller at this moment in time is just better with the good old Ballbehandlung. So.
Yeah. I mean, with Haaland, he's going to get there. I was thinking about the DAZN podcast episode you recommended to me, with you know, where they Julian Brandt, where they interviewed him, and he said Haaland couldn't head the ball to save his life. I was better at it than he was. And then towards the end, obviously that was a little bit different. You know, he significantly improved, but Haaland's history now. And we don't care about him. So now we move on. I will say Dortmund need a plan B with Haller, because African Cup of Nations. I don't know when the next one is, or timing wise when it falls. But historically it's usually January, February timeframe. and it's like a really long tournament. I mean, just look at, Liverpool, 2 of their 3 best players were always gone in that time with Mané and Salah. So Haller plays for Ivory Coast. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
For that. The other thing is timing wise, because he actually played for the Ivory Coast, delaying the official until July is no big deal because he isn't set to join Dortmund even from international duty until the 8th or 9th of July. And so, yeah, it's no big deal.
So, yeah, the next Africa Cup of Nations actually is in Ivory Coast. They're the host nation, and it will happen between June 23rd to July 23rd.
Okay, so they moved it. Is it next year?
Yeah, 2023.
Okay. So they moved it to the summer probably because of that atrocity happening in Qatar in winter. Okay. Well, then it's not a big deal.
Well, for one season, but
for one season, yeah.
I mean,
but at least for next year.
In general, you're obviously right, but I think that Dortmund can replace him just by playing Malen and Adeyemi as a 2-striker tandem, and
you still have Moukoko.
If he sticks around, yeah, that's obviously also a point of discussion. But I mean, Haller last season for Ajax, I think had about 1 goal/assist per minute. Per 90, not per minute.
Per minute.
Not per minute, per 90 minutes.
30 million's a steal.
Yeah. And he had the same in his final season with Frankfurt. And I think if he can get to that rate, that would be awesome for Dortmund. As I said before, meeting on eye level, to me also means that he's not going to be a world-class striker. To me, he's an international class striker, and I think he fits really well to Dortmund's size, let's say. I think it's a good fit in that regard. So I'm not expecting absolute gaudy numbers like we saw from, say, Aubameyang or Haaland, but I just expect him to fit into the system, whatever that will be at the end of the day, because right now we have not really seen what Tessic's plans are. That he fits together. But Dortmund said from the outset, and Sebastian Kehl said, Dortmund want a physical striker, and I think that's the profile. And I think having him at the age of 28, happy belated birthday since he only turned 28 yesterday. That's we have someone who hopefully instantly works, and I think there is the next positive tidbit, even though it's not announced. The fact that this deal has been wrapped up now instead of as late as last season with Daniel Malen is just worth so much, because the time that Dortmund gained with him on the training ground, I think he's supposed to join on July 8th or 9th with the rest of international players. It's going to help tremendously. It's going to be a short preseason as is. Everything is crammed and right now, and everything is just annoying if you look at the schedule, to be honest. So every day really counts, and kudos to Sebastian Kehl for pulling it off, because like I said, when I was talking about my dream striker replacement and saying it was Haller, never in a million years I would have believed that this could realistically be achieved, especially after the Champions League outing he had. And it's funny. I think is that his first was this his first Champions League outing? It must have been, right? Because he did not play with West Ham or Frankfurt in the Champions League. So yeah,
it should be theoretically.
Yeah, he played in the Europa League with Frankfurt, where he had 10 games and scored 5 goals, 1 assist in 2018-19. And other than that, I don't think he had a European outing. No, because. Funny story, Ajax failed to register him for their Europa League campaign 2 seasons ago. So, I don't know. But also everything you read and hear about Sebastian Haller is that he is a team player, that he has a really good work ethic, because when Ajax were playing in Europa League and he could make it because of that error and formality, he was in the training ground pushing weights and keeping himself fit or trying to improve. So it's a great transfer. I don't know what else to say. I really hope it works out.
The other advantage you have, given his age and experience, is you have his age and experience because he has so many young players around him. That's one thing Haaland couldn't give to the likes of Bellingham or in future Adeyemi or Gio Reyna, in that sense of he's a veteran player and he will provide veteran leadership and guidance and experience. Haaland obviously couldn't be that because he wasn't that. He's got more mileage than a kid his age should have in Haaland, which I think hurt him his last season at Dortmund. I think you saw you play that much that early, it's going to wear on your body. So I think that's the other benefit that Haller will bring to the young players that Dortmund have. Plus, it raises that average age a little bit, which will shut some lazy pundits up who still, even over the last few years, kept saying Dortmund were too young, When you looked at their average age, it's like,
I mean, it's a bit of an image that doesn't always hold up. I mean,
correct.
Yeah, if you play with Moukoko and Bino Gittens maybe and have Gio Reyna around and maybe Bellingham, then you are maybe too young and add Tom Reus and whatnot. But overall, there's a lot of experience in this team. And Dortmund are far from being the youngest team in the Bundesliga. I think those days are over, to be honest. But
they're balanced. They're very well balanced now.
So, I'm going to ask you this now, Matthias. Why do you think Dortmund picked Haller and not Kalajdzic? It's a question I will probably have, will level at Lars in a week or two as well. But, it's it's a question that needs to be asked, and I have my answer. I'm wondering what yours is.
Well, the recent injury probably played into it. That's a question mark. I think Kalajdzic would look at Dortmund as the next step to his next step. And like you'd mentioned, I think Dortmund aren't interested in that. They want somebody who lives in the moment for the club, which I think Haller will do. Haller also being very professional, more mature, I think helps. And a longer proven track record. Given that Kalajdzic wouldn't be cheap either, I think that just all kind of leans more into the Haller camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kalajdzic might have been gettable for 25 or so. I'm not entirely sure, but my main argument actually would just be the efficiency in front of goal. And, a lot has been said about Dortmund's efficiency because last season they were the most efficient team. I mean, they scored the most goals in club history. But I think this is like the biggest difference between the two strikers. I think the statistics say that Kalajdzic is even better at linking up with teammates, at dropping back and even at pressurizing opponents. When it comes to interceptions, his stats look better. When it comes to pressuring opponents, his stats look better. But I think the two biggest stats that make a difference, to me at least, is that Haller is a much more clinical finisher. Obviously, these are things that come with age and experience, as you said. And the other notable thing is that Haller gets dispossessed far fewer times during a game. Even when Haller is under pressure, he does not lose the ball as often as Kalajdzic. And Kalajdzic just, is a great player, but he also has a lot of really weird touches every now and then. And when you play for Stuttgart, maybe you don't notice this as much, but when you play for Dortmund, you do. And I think Kalajdzic could have been also a very frustrating player at times. And I feel like with Haller, Dortmund get a very solid baseline player who I think will always be a very solid player. Obviously, Haller will not have as many touches. I don't think he will, drop himself as much into midfield. But that sort of also depends on the playing style, because he did that more with Frankfurt. I don't know much about West Ham, but he did it less at Ajax. So I think it really depends on what Terzic is doing. And that is sort of my question to you, because obviously at Frankfurt, he had great success being part of the Büffelherde. At Ajax, he's playing together also in a sort of 3-line attack. I think in West Ham he was a sole striker, and that was apparently in part why it didn't work out so well. So Terzić's main system when he coached Dortmund for the first time was a 4-2-3-1. Now that Dortmund did sign Adeyemi, do you think that we will see more of a 2-striker attack?
That's a good question. I mean, when Adeyemi was signed and assuming there would be a replacement for Haaland, it was like, all right, now comes the Rose 4-4-2 diamond.
Right.
Obviously, things have changed. I think given the players that Dortmund have, also with signing Salih Özcan, then you've got Modahoud, you've got, of course, Jude Bellingham, you've got Emre Can, you've got a good base, Brandt in central midfield. You throw in the likes of Reus, Bino Gittens, Adeyemi, Malen. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 4-3-3, given who Dortmund have in the side right now. I think there will be a lot of fluidity in the system itself. I mean, it could be a 4-2-3-1 where that one behind the striker actually shifts up more and it looks more like a 4-2-2.
Yeah.
Or 2-2-2. I was forgetting a line there and not playing strikerless. So I think what this gives Dortmund is a lot of flexibility. I think he can work as a lone striker a nominal lone striker if you have players around him that are running off of him, running with him. So you're playing a 4-3-3 where your two guys on the wings are a little more tucked in. So it's almost like 3 strikers in that sense, or a 4-2-3-1 where the person behind them is it's like what did Favre call them, like a 9.5 or a false 10 or something like that. So Marco Reus or Adeyemi possibly sitting in there, or Malen. I mean, there are a lot of options now.
I know. Yeah, I just for shits and giggles, I was like on Team Builder or whatever it's called to like try to pick my best 11 on the current Dortmund players, and it's really not that easy because you have to admit a lot of attacking talent. Julian Brandt did not make the cut. Daniel Malen was out. Azar was out. Because I think I had Haller up top, and then I had Adeyemi on the right, and I had Reus in the middle, and I had Reiner on the right. In the 4-2-3-1, obviously you have to jiggle that around a little bit because Dortmund will be pretty wingless. But yeah, I mean the options right now are crazy, especially if you play with all 3 center backs. Considering or assuming Akanji will still leave. You have a back 3, then you can play Guerreiro and Meunier as wingbacks, which fit them a little better. I would always love a double pivot of Özcan and Bellingham. And then you have only 2 players or 3 for the attacking department, if you will. So, a lot of flexibility right now.
And you throw in Modahoud as like truly becoming that playmaker. Yeah. That pass giver out of a deeper central midfield position where he's not always asked to fulfill a holding midfield role, but is more open in his passing, ability to move forward, kind of more in a Gündoğan type role, which I think suits him better.
I mean, look at, say, high-profile games against Bayern Munich. Dortmund often like to play in a 4-3-3. And then you have a backline, say, of Guerreiro, Meunier, Schlotterbeck, and Süle, which already is a good one. Then you have Özcan as the holding midfielder. A little bit deeper, and then in front of those 2, you have Bellingham and Dahoud, as you just said, just for the passing. And then you obviously need to play Haller because he's going to be very important in such games because he can hold up the ball. But then you would also have the very fast Adeyemi, and then you either put Reus there, you put Reiner there, you put Malen there, whoever is on form and healthy. I'm just thinking this through, and you have all of a sudden a very defensively solid system with a lot of counter-attacking potential. I think this would be a system in a lineup that could fare really well against Bayern.
Yes. I still have fullback question marks.
Obviously.
I think if we're looking at the team now, those are the two areas that Sebastian Kehl and his compatriots need to take a closer look at. But you can't do everything in one window.
I mean, first we have to sell a couple of players before people can dream and think about David Raum.
Yes, Schulz and Guerrero need to go to make that at all a possibility.
Yeah, like I said, with these fullbacks, it might be smarter to play with a three at the back, so they can play wingbacks, so they have a little bit less of defensive duties, especially with Guerrero. I think Meunier is a solid defender.
He's fine.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, it's if I would have to look at an area to replace, it would be left back more than right back, which is really weird saying that right now, sitting here this summer.
I mean, I personally am very excited about the return of Moret. I think Moret is a really decent player, and I mean, before he got injured, he had a really great run.
He was in a great trajectory.
He benched Meunier because he was just a better player at that point. Obviously, without his injury, we wouldn't have had the great finale of Lukas Piszczek. But I'm really hoping that he can bounce back and throughout the season. And maybe we should address this right now. Season goals and expectations, because I said it a couple of weeks ago. People obviously can dream about titles and whatnot, but just because you made 5 great transfers, you don't automatically become champion or anything. I personally think that this is a season of building chemistry. If we have a title run at all, I expect it rather be the season after this season. So my expectations going into this season are not sky high, to be honest, even though I think my Dortmund timeline on Twitter might look a little differently, but I think Terzic, the coaching staff, and all the new players after this big of a transition will need a lot of time to really figure stuff out. And maybe you win the first 5 games, but as we saw in Peter Bosch, that does not mean that you're just going to steamroll everyone throughout the rest of the season, but it's going to be a process that's going to be taking some while. I mean, I don't know how Nico Schlotterbeck will adjust, etc. All I know is that he's a great player, and in the coming years he will be dynamite for Dortmund. But I don't know if all this will happen right away. So, Matthias, I thought to myself, if Dortmund finish in the top 4, have a Champions League round of 16, is it right? It will be hard enough when you are drawn in pot 3 and maybe a semi-final in the German Cup. To me, that would already constitute a good season. So I don't know how you approach this.
Yeah, I mean, goals and expectations are two different things. I mean, there's nothing on my whiteboard right now, but professionally, I have goals and I have expectations. Those are two different things. Expectations are usually set by professionally, say clients, customers, whatever. And then I have my own goals, what I want to achieve. And it'll be the same in a football club. You have your expectations. This is what you at least have to achieve, but our goals are higher than that. If you don't set your goals higher than your expectations, you have a better chance of exceeding your expectations if you set higher goals than what you expect psychologically. And so the goal I have for Dortmund this coming season is quarterfinals of the Champions League.
All right.
Winning the DFB Pokal and giving Bayern a good run for their money. Those are the goals I have. Now, obviously, the hopes are you win everything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about hopes. My expectations are reaching the final of the DFB Pokal. I expect that. And I think Dortmund should expect that.
It always depends on the draw, which is why I say semi-final.
True, but I'll be honest, I only see one team in Germany that's better than Dortmund, and that's Bayern. And I have question marks with Bayern. I'm not 100% sure how much better they actually are. When it comes to the Bundesliga, the expectation is that you have to finish second.
All right. That's fair.
That's an expectation there. Champions League, Coming in second in your group and advancing. That's I think the minimum expectation. Given how last season's cups went, which would then put you into the round of 16, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I think my expectations and goals are lining up pretty closely.
Yeah, obviously, a Champions League semifinal would be amazing, but I assume there will be some growing pains this season.
Yeah, I don't expect semifinal for the Champions League because last time Dortmund was there, Jürgen Klopp was a manager. So I don't expect that. The goal would be a quarterfinal. Terzic has done that before.
Yeah, and it was mighty close, to be honest.
Yeah, and in harder, way more difficult circumstances, may I add. And that's the other thing. I think Terzic has a certain grace period that other managers before him won't have for two reasons. Everybody loves the guy, okay? They already love him. He won the DFB Pokal. He managed to get into the Champions League. But the other grace period is it was a rough start when he took over and then a glorious finish. And I think that will buy him grace. Whereas obviously Marco Rose would have no grace. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
If you would have brought in a Ten Hag or anybody like that, no, there would be no grace. They'd be like, you better win this shit now. So again, I think that's where the goals and expectations are. Improve over last season. I think that's an absolute must, which obviously in the Bundesliga is a little hard because you finished second. But I think the improvement in the Bundesliga is concede less goals.
Yeah, fewer.
Be more aggressive. I don't want to say more predictable, but more consistent in your performances. I think that was the thing. Like, I was thinking about it mowing the lawn yesterday. I was like, it's weird to think about Dortmund's season in review because you finished second with the most goals scored in club history, but it felt disappointing. And that's just a weird juxtaposition to be in. I think part of it is also because the cup competitions were such a flop.
Yeah.
If those would have been better, I think we would have looked at the Bundesliga more positively.
100%.
But because those were so bad, it kind of highlighted the inconsistencies in the Bundesliga. Because I guess to Rose's credit and to Dortmund's credit, they won matches they probably should have lost.
Yeah.
Granted, they also lost a few or didn't get points in some where they should have gotten points. So it kind of balances out. But defensively, I think that's the biggest problem, and I think that is an area that has been very clearly addressed.
Yeah.
I still am nervous about Guerreiro. I'll be honest.
We all are, but I mean, even he can bounce back. It's
yeah. But I think his attitude is what his attitude is.
That is true, but I think having Guerreiro as your left back is not the worst thing in the world either.
No,
we always sound like,
not.
oh God, everything rises and falls with Guerreiro, but it's not entirely that. He can also win us games. It's not like he's completely useless.
Let's put it to you this way. If Guerreiro does a Guerreiro thing, which will always happen in every game, he's not going to change. He is who he is. Having an exposed Süle or an exposed Schlotterbeck is not as problematic as an exposed Hummels simply based on speed.
Right.
Because we saw it when Akanji was exposed by bad fullback play. He could make up for a lot simply because he's so damn fast. And he's good at tackling. But I want to see way less last-ditch tackles.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be taken out of Dortmund's repertoire. Also because, and I know you dog on Emre Can, but there were plenty of times where he saved Dortmund's bacon by making a last-ditch tackle after the team being exposed in the back line. If you eliminate those, you'll eliminate penalties, you'll eliminate mistakes, you'll eliminate like hectic clearances. So you put all that in, that ties back into what I believe the goals and expectations are.
Yeah.
Better than last season. And in the Bundesliga, that means more consistency, better defense. If you drop off a little bit in goals, That's fine if your defense is solid and you're getting the points you should.
Yeah, well, that's why I just put the let's be louder than ever quote from Terzic on the screen, because when I talked about season goals, I just listed where Dortmund should finish for me to not be entirely disappointed. But obviously there are more things that you can expect. And I think my main goal really, or expectation, is team cohesion and club cohesion. So, and I think Terzic is just the perfect guy for this, because he will act as glue between the team and the fans, like we've not had in a very long time. Actually, like we not had since Terzic. But, last time it happened, there were no fans in the stands, and I think this time it will be different, and it, I hope, also will be better. But I think this is a point that we've been missing for a very long time. First of all, tactical cohesion. I think the positional play needs to improve in the sense that there just cannot be these wide-ass gaps between everyone on the field.
Yeah.
When every player needs to be on the same page, and I feel like this is something that several coaches have failed to implement. And it's going to be a huge task for Terzic or anybody, because it's one of the hardest things to do, to pull off a consistently good positional play, no matter what the situation is in football. But also, I just want a positive vibe between the fans and the team throughout the season. And as I said, there will be growing pains. I'm sure of it. Maybe I'm wrong and Dortmund will just run through everything, but it's not entirely likely. So, Matthias, my assumption is that you will have to moderate a lot too, and I think Terzic will do this relatively well. And as for the on the pitch stuff, and I think where is it? We have so many things to discuss.
So many.
Is it here? Yeah,
we respect privacy.
Yeah, whatever. Obviously, is that Dortmund did sign Peter Hermann. And I think that's a massive coup for him. Or for, not only for him, also for Dortmund. Watzke explained, I think, in the official statement that it was Terzic's explicit wish to have a more experienced guy on the sideline. Hermann just got promoted with Schalke as the interim assistant coach, or whatever you want to call it. He has been a part of the Bundesliga for so many years now. He's been part of the German coaching staff and whatnot. I think this is a very sensible move. What is your idea of Peter Hermann joining Sebastian Gebhardt and Terzic?
So, just so people know, he was at Schalke. Who cares? That surge that brought Schalke back to the Bundesliga, because under Gramotzes, they were faltering. Mike Büskens took over because you couldn't find anybody else to take over that poison chalice. That surge, a lot of it is down to Peter Hermann, because of his tactical understanding and understanding how teams work and so on. And that helped propel Schalke up the table. Now, they were obviously also helped by the fact that, like, St. Pauli and Hamburg do Hamburg things, and, things kind of fell apart for some teams. But they really took hold of things there towards the end and earned their promotion, as much as that makes me want to vomit. But Peter Hermann was very important to that. He was very important to Jupp Heynckes in that, just
the treble-winning season,
the treble-winning season
made him a condition. I think it was a record signing for an assistant coach, because he was at Fortuna Düsseldorf at the time, and then Bayern had to sign him from Düsseldorf, because that was the only way that Heynckes would take over from. Who was it then? Was it Ancelotti? I forgot.
No. This was.
No, was it
Dutchman Van Gaal. Yes. Yes, yeah. This was after Louis. And obviously that first post Louis van Gaal season, Bayern finished second in everything. The ultimate Vizekusen season. Second in the Bundesliga to Dortmund. lost a Champions League final they should have won at home, and then obviously got destroyed in the DFB Pokal final by Dortmund. And then the next season, they won those 3 competitions.
How annoying.
So Peter Hermann, a very good signing. I think it, and the fact that Edin Terzic said, I want an experienced, proven, winning assistant coach. Not just an experienced assistant coach. I mean, you can find those. But someone who knows what winning looks like from that position.
He's been at the top level for pretty much all of his career.
And it speaks highly of Edin Terzic. You know, there's always one of the big things you have to deal with in all walks of life is people who know what they don't know. And Terzic knows what he doesn't know. He knows he has growing to do. He knows he's lacking experience. And these types of assistants will help him. The worst thing you can have is have someone who doesn't know what they don't know. And you see that all the time in all walks of life. I'm thinking, I don't know why, but Alan Pardew just pops into my head whenever I think of that. But this is very good. This is a very cohesive team from top to bottom at this point. And what Terzic does, and you mentioned it, it gives an Identifikationsfigur, a little German there. So, someone who's identifies with the club that Jürgen Klopp bought in immediately. That after Klopp left, nobody did, except obviously Terzic, because he's from the Sauerland. He is a local. He cared. This is his club. Bosch didn't do that. Obviously, Stöger didn't do that. Nice guys, but they didn't click, and they couldn't. It was too short. Lucien Favre has never really been that since leaving FC Zurich. But even there, he was not super tight because it's not his part
football
of
correspondence he is speaking.
He is, well, no, I mean, I'm a Grasshoppers fan, but still, he's not from that part of Switzerland. So there is just a cultural barrier in there. And obviously, Marco Rose was never going to be that simply because his family was in Leipzig and he traveled there all the time. He didn't want to set up roots anywhere he's been. And Terzic, these are his roots. This is where he's from. So I think that with people like, a club legend like Sebastian Kehl, which was the perfect person to replace the ultimate club legend in Michael Zorc, and then people like Raubal and Watzke who are from here. This is their club. It matters. Even Matthias Sammer has so many ties to Dortmund. Everyone actually cares. And I think that is one of the key things that I think the international BVB Twitterverse oftentimes forgets, that everybody in this club, in the front office, to scouting, to now also on the bench, gives a shit, really cares about this club. And that is a very unique proposition that you find, granted, it's not that unique in Germany. You find that in a lot of German clubs, but outside of Germany, it's a little bit rare. Whereas in Germany, I mean, you can't tell that, Bayern, even most of the people who are in the front office, they're Bayern people. They've been Bayern people for decades. So Dortmund now really have that also on the bench. And I think that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Peter Hermann, just the day-to-day business for him, planning the training and, the situation of what needs to be trained, and where to prioritize the effort, so to speak, and how to manage players on a day-to-day business. I think there are few assistant coaches that can do a better job than him.
Agreed.
So in that regard, I'm really happy with the signing. And then obviously another move has been made. Shad Forsythe has joined Dortmund as the new head of performance. He was with the DFB beforehand. He was part of the coaching staff that won the World Cup in 2014, and since then I think he was doing this at Arsenal. But I mean, he is I don't know, Koryphäe, guru, whatever the words are, but at least he's highly regarded in this field of what do you call it? Athletics, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's kinetics. I mean it's that whole field of performance and fitness. Probably the biggest change that was introduced to German football by Jürgen Klinsmann.
Yeah.
And ahead of 2006. And obviously this is an area that Dortmund need to improve.
Yeah.
When it comes to fitness and fitness management. I'm going to forgive him his Arsenal blight at this time. But everybody makes mistakes.
But more importantly, I think it speaks to the fact that Dortmund are not walking around with their eyes closed, but
correct. They know what the
changes.
problems are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, they signed 2 center backs, and they signed one of the most highly regarded fitness, performance, kinetics people in the sport. They obviously realized where the problems were.
Yeah.
And I still maintain that they weren't planning on getting rid of Rose. But all the other signings that they brought in address those issues. Same with Haller, Salih Özcan. I mean, it's there's no Schürrle or Yarmolenko, even though I love Yarmolenko. It's hard not to, but these were all highly calculated decisions. Adeyemi will have to wait and see. That may be one of those get him before somebody else gets him kind of a thing, but there's a ton of upside with the kid. So I think it's a calculated risk, but these are all very professional moves that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's not only that Dortmund have a big transition on the field, it's also the off field. The staff behind the team that is going through changes. I think they've also added 2 other fitness coaches, one from Bochum also, but I don't have it in front of me right now. But you just see that there is a lot of turmoil and that Sebastian Kehl has been a very busy man recently. So
the turnover's been there and needed.
Yeah. So obviously, it's a very interesting time, and I'm already very excited about next season. After as this season ended and it sort of petered out, we were like, okay, whatever, let's just get this over with. And then I need a mental break from anything black and yellow. But now I'm feeling it. I feel the excitement. I don't know about you, but if you have to assess Sebastian Kehl's first months. It's obviously a transitional period, but I personally was very skeptical at first having him take over from Michael Zorc, because it is a very daunting job, and obviously it is far too early to really pass any judgment, because on paper everything looks nice, but how it all pans out, only hindsight will tell. Not foresight.
Yeah.
My question to you, Matthias, though, however, is considering that Dortmund have groomed him for quite some time now, how do you think he has fared so far?
Okay, so this is very difficult for me because we all know that I'm a big Susi Zorc fan. Always will be. I think he's the greatest Dortmund club person ever.
Yeah.
From start to finish. He's a Dortmunder Jung. And Michael Zorc, I kind of, to juxtapose this a little bit. So Michael Zorc took over from Michael Meyer. And we all know the Michael Meyer legacy. And not just Michael Meyer, but also who was running the club ahead of him at that time. The legacy was the near total dissolution of the club in 2005. So Michael Zorc had no on-the-job training. There was no grooming. It was like he retired, and it was like, here you go. You're the manager, as it was called, the sporting director. And Dortmund won a title, and then almost went out of business, and had to completely rebuild through massive difficulty. And then they all had the lucky foresight to be like, this Jürgen Klopp guy could be good. And it worked out. Okay. The the difference then to Sebastian Kehl and Michael Zorc, he grew up a Straßenkicker from Dortmund, whereas Sebastian Kehl was always a very cerebral player, very intelligent. He also went through the tumultuous years at Dortmund. Can't forget, he won a title in his first season. He won a title in his first season at Dortmund in 2002. So he went through the highs and the lows and the highs again.
I mean, he was in the middle of the tug of war between Dortmund and Bayern when he was playing for Freiburg. It was one of many transfers where Dortmund were very proud that they could sign a player that Bayern also wanted.
Yes. And he that whole time, he got his Abitur, he studied at university. Very intelligent. When you hear him speak, when you see interviews, he's an intelligent guy. And then on the job training, knowing he was going to take over or hoping he was going to take over. I don't think it was guaranteed when they brought him in. So let's see how this goes, but it could work. And I think there's a lot of guidance there from Matthias Sammer. I'm sure there was guidance from Michael Zorc.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm sure there will still be guidance from Michael Zorc.
100%.
It's not like he's just going to poof, gone. The greatest Dortmund club legend ever, just poof, gone. No, I mean, Sammer came back. I think Zorc will always be there. And obviously you have Fraubal and Watzke and all these people who've gone through all the shit with Dortmund over the last 20 years. Because it's been 20 years since that 2002 title win, which just makes me feel so old. So bearing all of that in mind, it's very positive, knowing that Sebastian Kehl is not making these decisions all on his own. This is a decision by group, by a very experienced group. And I think he will be getting more and more involved and more, let's say, okay, this is on you now. You make this call. You've heard our opinions. You make this call. Because I think a lot of people who've come to German football from English football, they still have this weird mentality of that the guy on the sideline makes all the decisions. And German football hasn't been that way since the 70s. I mean, we've always had the sporting director and then the president of the club and then the head coach. That's why in Germany it's called a head coach. And so I think Sebastian Kehl, so far, it looks good. Yeah. Proof is in the pudding. I think the dynamic between him and Terzic is very good. They already proved it. They get along. I think the dynamic between him and Watzke and Sammer, and also to a degree Raubal, who's still there, and Zorc, who will still be there, I think is very, very positive. So far, so good. I'm not going to give him like a letter grade or anything like that at this point. We'll do that after next season. But I'm very optimistic by what is happening.
Yeah, so am I. And I think it's good to know that so far the transition seems to be working out. Because
smoothly. Yeah,
very smoothly. And obviously, being sporting director of Dortmund now is entirely different than was 15 years ago or whenever. Because now Dortmund are the club with the second most resources in Germany. And, it's kind of nice for Kehl that he gets to rebuild so much, if you will, because that way he can also mold this team more to what his imaginations are. And
you can't screw it up.
No, obviously.
You're not screwing up something that was winning all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so let's talk about a couple of things real quick of the work he has done. Because we talked about Salih Özcan at the Marco Rose Out Emergency podcast, but I don't think it was official then. So here it is. BVB signed Salih Özcan. I think they triggered a release clause for about 5 million, contract till 2026. Özcan, obviously, 24 years old, came from Cologne and, was struggling at Cologne for most of his time at Cologne, and he is a very culture Jung. But last season under Breitenreiter, is this the right name? What's his name? Yeah,
Stefan Baumgart.
Baumgart. Yeah, I was like,
wait a no. A lot of people would struggle under Breitenreiter.
Yeah, no. Under Baumgart, he became the player that Dortmund now hope to have in their own team, which is a very aggressive. I think he's a bit between number 6 and number 8. I think they wanted a true number 6 and hope to transform him a little bit more. But having an aggressive ball winner that is very intelligent. So I don't know if you want to liken him to Sebastian Kehl. I don't think he's on that level quite yet, or Sven Bender. But at least he, from the profile, it's adjacent, let's say.
I mean, he's almost a head shorter. Just look at that picture.
Yes.
I mean, Sebastian Kehl is a big dude.
Yeah.
Money Bender is a big dude.
Yes.
Salih Özcan isn't a big dude. But he is, like, we always use those terms, like in German, Terrier.
Yeah, right.
You know, and that's kind of who he is. And the good thing is, coming to Dortmund, knowing what Terzic wants to do, knowing also what Marco Rose was planning on doing, which isn't dissimilar to what Terzic wants to do as far as aggression goes, coming from Steffen Baumgart, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect. I mean, you want to talk about someone who symbolizes pressing in the Bundesliga right now, it's Steffen Baumgart.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a key signing for us because Dortmund does not right now or before that had this type of player profile. And I don't know how good he will be because it's still quite a massive step also in a very short period of time, because even at Cologne, he was struggling for a while. But that being said, I think Özcan is just a guy that every Dortmund fan loves because, as you said, he gets stuck in. I think, as we also say in Germany, the vacuum cleaner, the guy who regains possession and just, just closes gaps. Very important. You know, when I talked about team cohesion, Özcan is the sort of player I think about. So, yeah, and obviously, I assume he will play a lot of minutes in the heart of Dortmund's midfield. There are obviously different combinations with Emre Can, with Dahoud and so on. But it would not surprise me if he becomes an instant starter. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I know you want that because you hate Emre Can. I don't see him becoming an instant starter. I think that's going to be Emre Can, because Emre Can will be able to actually play his main position.
Yeah.
Which for the last 2 seasons he was able to do sparingly at most. Especially last season. I mean, the amount of times Emre Can started in midfield versus in the back line, I think I can count that on one hand. So I think you've got that rotation between the two of them. I think Salih Özcan, I know Salih Özcan is a little bit less hot-headed than Emre Can. So probably make a few less of those, let's call them aggression mistakes that are a little bit boneheaded, but they're built on aggression and not malice and stupidity. It's just over exuberance. I think he's a little bit less that. And so I think they'll swap duty, and I think that's perfect. That's exactly what both those players need. That's exactly what Emre Can needs,
especially on that position.
Yes, and Can needs it because he was asked to do too much, too often, and and his tires are getting worn too. So I think this benefits him. And can't forget, Can is more money. You know, he was the bigger financial investment. Also, when it comes to his contract, guarantee you he makes a lot more than Salih Özcan. So they're not going to relegate him to the bench yet. I think what you're looking at here is if Can doesn't improve his consistency, then there's not going to be an extended contract for him because they have the guy in Salih Özcan. I think that is the calculated move here that I fully support. And Emre Can is a workhorse. You know, he doesn't have a bad attitude. He doesn't, he works hard also on the training pitch. I think this is something that can maybe even drive him to become a better player.
Yeah, no, I agree with all your assessment. Hopefully Emre Can works out because Dortmund do spend a lot of money on him. But yeah, I have my question mark behind that. So next subject real quick. Steffen Tigges obviously leaving Dortmund. I think it was like a transfer fee of 2 or 3 million to Cologne. So I think Baumgart wanted to have him already last season. I think he revealed that when
in a press conference.
Yeah, in the press conference, exactly.
Yep.
So obviously Steffen Tigges, under 23 striker. I remember when he was subbed in for Haaland at the Bayern game, and Dortmund's comeback in that game was practically over. Yeah, what can you say? I mean, it's a great transfer for him, obviously, because it shows
he stays in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, he stays in the Bundesliga, and I think Cologne will, give him regular playing time, seeing that Modesto's not getting any younger, and they have Conference League to play. So yeah, I think this is a very decent transfer for them, and I'm excited to see where his development will go. And I also think it's a very good advert for Dortmund's under 23, since they're Dritte Liga club, basically, if you will. And being able to promote someone like this, first having Bundesliga minutes and goals for Borussia Dortmund, the first team, and then sort of piggybacking off that to make a permanent move to the Bundesliga. I think that can only help Dortmund's recruitment for their under 23, which is not unimportant. So that's pretty much all I have to say on this subject.
I wish him the best of luck. I think he's going to be a rotational option at Köln. I maintain my opinion. He's a Zweite Bundesliga striker.
Yeah.
At most.
So speaking of the under 23, Enrico Maaßen has left Dortmund for Augsburg. Obviously, a very highly touted and highly regarded coach from the under 23. What do you make of this move?
Well, at least he didn't go to England. I mean, that's where under 23 coaches for Dortmund tend to go. If you just look at Daniel Farke. No, I mean, under 23s, I do look at lower leagues in Germany. He did a decent job. I personally maintain that Bundesliga second teams shouldn't be allowed to play in the Dritte Liga or Regionalliga. It's just my personal opinion.
I think they should just have their own reserve league.
I agree. I think they eat up spots and honestly money from clubs that actually need it. But yeah, good luck, man. I don't really have an opinion on this. I wish him the best of luck-ish for Augsburg. I think to me, Augsburg's like a totally bland club.
Yeah, he can get
take him or leave him. I mean, Augsburg for me are in the Bundesliga what Sandhausen are in the Zweite Bundesliga. I always forget Sandhausen are in the Zweite Bundesliga, and Augsburg, I only remember it when they play against Dortmund and make life miserable for Dortmund. I hope Enrico Maaßen makes Augsburg more interesting to watch, because over the last X number of years, I've just hated their brand of football completely.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I mean, they're still not interesting.
No, it's still the most interesting thing about them is that a Dortmund club legend is still there in Stefan Reuter. That is like the most interesting thing about Augsburg.
Yeah,
and the fact that one of the major sponsors and that helped Augsburg get into the Bundesliga is from my family's hometown in Germany, the small town of Techte.
Yeah,
and he's the owner of Taco. So, I mean, that's like odd little trivia right in there. But other than that,
yeah, I have Augsburg also, funnily enough, have some Philly ties, because Josh Harris, the one of the co-owners of the Philadelphia 76ers, among a million other teams, also has a stake something in Augsburg. So he's invested there too. It's all
I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion on this. I just don't care.
All right, so
I'll be honest, I just don't care.
So let's just move on, because Leon Semic received a professional contract, under 19 player, very exciting talent. When you scroll down, you will see that he's a right back, and he's a very speedy right back. I'll be honest, I don't have the biggest opinion on that transfer either, other than, it's not really a transfer, but the signing. You know, obviously.
Potential.
Obviously, it's nice to see that the pipeline is still there, and that many players, Tom Rote made his debut. Semic, I think will get some playing time here and there. I don't think we'll see too much of him in the first team, but you never know how it goes with injuries. There's some promise there. I don't know if he's going to be Dortmund, great of a player. It's huge. It's a massive step, but nevertheless, I think it's good news that Dortmund manages to retain these talents, and hopefully we'll see more of him. Obviously, he will be again with Dortmund in the preseason and whatnot. And I think that's about as quickly discussed as Dortmund signing Jayden Braaf, who...
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of...
I have no opinion.
No, obviously, but...
Schau mal.
I'm just going over it because, in 2-3 years, this might become very relevant, just like Dortmund signing Bino Gittens, maybe this season or next season.
Well, Dortmund still have a few Ajax and PSG 17-year-olds that, they got signed, and one of them's been injured the whole time. And it's like, okay, we haven't heard much from the other ones. I mean, all that being said, Dortmund's under-19s have been on a tear the last few years in Germany. So he'll play there.
I just wanted to rattle things off because a lot of stuff has happened since we've been since our last episode. Basically, that's what I wanted to sort of end on. Unless you have anything else to say.
Marco Reus injury.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the one thing. It's like so I don't care about the Nations League. Granted, the day Dortmund, I said Germany won 5-2 against Italy and England lost 4-0 to Hungary. It was kind of cool. It was pretty funny. But of course, Marco Reus had to get injured with a long-term injury. But Dortmund have the depth to absorb that and move on. But of course, it's frustrating because for the last 2 seasons, Reus has been relatively injury-free, And so this was just one of those things like, oh God, in a meaningless tournament, did this have to happen?
Yeah, him and the German national team is just, it's
a curse.
It is a curse. It's really not a lucky streak, but
no, I mean, think about it. The only tournament he was able to really show up in was 2018, the tournament we all want to forget.
Itself,
yeah.
I mean, it's problematic because he did skip the Euros on purpose just because to retain fitness for the club, and I think it was a super smart decision. Because I think last season he played 40 games for Dortmund and had about 29 scorer points or so. So still impressive haul for Reus, and I really hope that this season he can continue there. But it's not off to a great start. And
no.
For the next episode, I think we should discuss his say possible contract extension or non-extension or whatever, because he is on a contract year now. We must not forget that. So, there's still lots of Dortmund things to discuss throughout this season and this preseason. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's a very annoying injury. So the Ruhrnachrichten, I think yesterday had a report on it that he is recovering well and that he's expected to re-enter team training about in a week or two as well. So he's not lagging behind all that far. But nevertheless, obviously, it's far from ideal.
Correct.
Because you also just feel like he is not getting the recuperation that he needs. I don't know. I just think overall, wasn't it Flick himself who said that the Nations League was pretty fucking dumb?
Yeah. Along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but
a little bit.
He said it was a waste of time, or
yeah. It's a money grab, which we all know it is.
Yeah. And
just move on from there.
Yeah, it's really annoying to be honest, because look at the squad that Dortmund will have and the excitement we will have, and how many more injuries will we have to deal with? How many times will the number 1, 11 or whatever actually be playing together? Will players actually have time to gel? Will everyone be fit? These are all question marks right now, just because of the load and the strain of these on these players. Talk about growing pains. Do you even know if players will be able to retain any sort of consistent form, considering the million games they will have to play? It's just insane. So,
yeah, especially like Gio Reyna, who just had a cursed season.
Yeah.
And, came back, bam, injured again. So there are some question marks there, but Dortmund's depth now in those positions is very good. And hopefully the changes made to the fitness team will prove itself out.
Yeah, but that all being said, it's still going to be a tough season in that regard. But Matthias, yeah, that was a very fun discussion. I'm excited about Haller and excited about the season in general. I'm excited about to talk about it more in the coming weeks. So, please tell our listeners where to find you on the internet. And we shall get out of here.
You can find me on Twitter at Matthias Zug.
Very nice. You can find me at Steffen Tigges on Twitter. You can follow all of us at Yellowwallpod. No, I'm not. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Down there?
You're right.
Where am I pointing? Down there. Down there. It's down there somewhere.
Yeah, just go on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube,
yeah.
If you're listening to this on a podcast, this did not make sense.
No, it did not. Well, so for our listeners there, please follow us on all our channels. Just go to linktree.com or whatever it's called, /theyellowwall, and you find all the links. In the meantime, though, as always, everyone out there, thank you for listening, and we shall be back either next week or in a fortnight. Until then, goodbye.